Hello, how's it going? In today's video, I'm covering the Betrayer, a destiny of flame and shadow, and the battle for Mount Hyjal. So let's get... Illidan had been imprisoned for 10,000 years, in darkness and solitude, so his sanity was a bit questionable. However, he'd spent a lot of time thinking about how Azeroth could defend itself against the Legion, and he had an idea. Firstly, they couldn't just keep fighting a defensive war. Demons would be killed and then respawn in the Twisting Nether. If they wanted to permanently destroy them, they'd have to take the fight to their domain and shoot them in the dick. When Tyrande arrived and released Illidan, he was like, cool, see ya. He wanted to begin his war against the Legion immediately and wasn't really that bothered about helping the Night Elves, which is understandable really, considering they'd just imprisoned him for 10,000 years. He knew they'd never trust him. If he explained what he knew, they'd either be suspicious or just think he was mental. He sensed knowledge and power emanating from northern Ashenvale. As he followed the rippling fell energies to their source, he found himself in Fellwood, and then he came across a human who stank of death. The Lich King had ordered Arthas to join the invasion in Kalimdor, but not to help, to kinda troll them. He'd subtly influenced the Scourge to misbehave and ignore their Legion masters, and it must have been really annoying. But Arthas wasn't really content with just being a slight nuisance. He needed a way to really hurt the Legion, and he also sensed knowledge and power emanating from northern Ashenvale, Tichondrius and the Skull of Gul'dan. That's what Illidan and Arthas are sensing. Don't know why I'm being so mysterious about it. If Arthas could strike Tichondrius down and destroy the skull, he could stop the spread of fell magic and deal a significant blow to the Legion's plan. There was no way for Arthas to kill Tichondrius without alerting Archimonde to the Lich King's treachery though. But if somebody else did the killing, and then he came across a fell-infused Night Elf thing, Arthas sensed Illidan's yearning for power and thought, this is the guy. So he confronted Illidan and explained that if he wanted knowledge, there's an artifact called the Skull of Gul'dan within these woods. It's being guarded by a dreadlord named Tichondrius, and he's a jerk. Illidan was a little bit suspicious, but he was too enticed by this promise of knowledge, so he went off to search for it, and then he found it, and he was ever so slightly excited. Rather than draw power from the relic, he basically ate it. The memories of an orc warlock flooded his mind, and this was the point where he grew horns and wings and stuff. Gul'dan's memories informed Illidan of Draenor, as well as the mysteries and artifacts locked within the Tomb of Sargeras. Illidan then hunted down Tichondrius and straight up destroyed him. Fellwood would remain tainted, but Fellwood no longer spread its corruption into Ashenvale or Hyjal. Although he'd been extremely useful, Tyrande and Malfurion weren't happy. His actions and new appearance were a little bit more than they could accept. Malfurion banished Illidan from Night Elf lands, and Illidan was like, okie dokie. To be honest, staying in Night Elf lands was a bit meaningless to him now anyway. He had his own war to fight, so he buggered off. The Legion was now steadily ascending Mount Hyjal, whilst thousands of Night Elf sentinels and druids, forest spirits, and the Horde and Alliance refugees stood at the summit. There hadn't been a gathering of races this big since the War of the Ancients, but it still wasn't enough, and they were massively outnumbered. And worse still, they weren't exactly working together. Archimonde could sense this disarray and was bloody excited. I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but I think he's excited because he knows what he's going to do to Nordrassil. But anyway, what he didn't know was Medivh was around. Medivh brought Thrall, Jaina, Tyrande and Malfurion together for a really tense brain trust meeting. And once again, he convinced them all to unify, putting aside their differences for the good of Azeroth. But there was one other thing they needed to discuss. What the bloody hell were they going to do, because brute force wasn't going to be enough? Malfurion proposed a dangerous and costly solution. Nordrassil was imbued with powerful enchantments. Malfurion believed he could ignite these magics and cause an explosion, but obviously, doing so would destroy the enchantments, leaving the Night Elves vulnerable to aging and sickness for the first time in 10,000 years, which would be devastating, but they didn't really have much of a choice. So, Malfurion and his druids made their preparations whilst the rest of Azeroth's defenders dug in around Hyjal's summit to buy them time. Thousands of these defenders would die that day, but their lives had not been given in vain, so don't worry about it. At this point, Archimonde arrived, and this happened. Now, I don't know why he humped the tree. Perhaps he had itchy balls or something. Anyway, a bunch of wisps showed up, closed in around Archimonde, and then Malfurion gave the command for them to channel their energies into the World Tree. A shockwave of energy erupted from Nordrassil. Archimonde was instantly destroyed, obviously, so were most of his undead and demons. And the Legion's hopes of seizing the Second Well of Eternity were shattered. The defenders immediately launched a counterattack against the remaining Legion forces in Kalimdor. Arthas Menethil only narrowly escaped, rallying as many Scourge as he could before retreating back to the Eastern Kingdoms. Following the victory, the Horde and Alliance refugees departed, hoping to find new lands to settle on Kalimdor. Their truce would remain, but would be tested in a few years. Tyrande and Malfurion began to rebuild, most of the surrounding woodlands were in ruins, and the World Tree had exploded. Although it would heal in time, the enchantments from the dragon aspects were gone. The Night Elves were no longer immortal, and worse than that, Malfurion and his druids now found it really difficult to reach the Emerald Dream. From afar, Medivh observed the world and sighed with relief, because he doesn't give a crap about Night Elves. The Legion's invasion had failed. There would be other threats, like the Lich King, but the task of safeguarding Azeroth now fell to its inhabitants, which is what he'd intended. They now knew strength was in unity. Hopefully, they don't do anything weird like continue to forget that every 5 minutes. And with that, he bloody vanished. And we're leaving it there! I know a few of you have been waiting for a nice ending for a while, but that actually kind of felt weird. We just finished Chapter 2 though. Chapter 3 is called The Frozen Throne. It's basically more Warcraft 3 stuff, followed by events leading up to vanilla World of Warcraft. As always, special thanks to those who support the channel as patrons. If anyone would like to do that, links in the description. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, all of that bollocks. And all that's left to say is, thanks very much for watching, and see ya!